Hello, everyone. Hi, I am your host. It's Jessica Koch with Profound Professionals. We have been running this interview series for 7 years now. I am just thrilled that you have followed us, that you keep watching, and my heart is completely touched when you share it. You just don't know whose life you can help or improve or really needed to hear this interview. And you were their hero because you hit share and it landed in their feed and they were able to see it. So thank you for that. This show has been bringing you industry experts from all over the world who help improve your personal life or grow your business. And today is a beautiful day because I have a great person on. Here we are as we launch into the new year with the first quarter. And we have Leslie, who helps coaches and consultants who struggle with self-promotion. Now, everyone knows how much I love myself. Self-promotion is not an issue for me. I love me. And I am totally not afraid of public speaking, but she will help those who struggle with self-promotion and who have a fear of public speaking. Now, they say people fear public speaking and death, and in that order. But public speakers who love to speak like me, do you know what we're afraid of? It's not death. It's empty seats. We want lots of faces in the squares on the Zoom. We want lots of butts and seats in the audience. Our only fear is an empty stadium, an empty room, an empty stage. We don't want to be there alone. We want to share our passion, our voice, and our story with the world. But don't be worried because this is a learnable skill and Leslie is here to help you. You too can learn to be super excited about having all those butts and seats and faces and squares filled to the hilt so that you can share your passion and story and make the transformations in the lives the way you are meant to. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you, Jessica. It is so exciting to be here.
Well, how did you get to be that person who helped people overcome and change their mindset and switch their story in their mind about how they felt about standing on the stage? I know that whole imagine everyone naked thing isn't the way to go for everyone. And I don't think it works for most people, to be honest. So what's your philosophy and how did you get into helping people get through this fear?
Well, I do think it does start in our head, but it's not visualizing people naked.
No.
It's how we talk to ourselves and what we say to ourselves about ourselves, that little critical voice. When I work with my clients about changing their inner critic to inner champion. And I think it's been in my nature always. One of my earliest memories was standing at the Sunday school door as the church next to where we lived, shaking hands with the kids as they left. I got in trouble because my parents didn't know where I was, but it's kind of always been in my nature, if you will. And however, knowing that you like something and doing it with expertise are two different things. Because in my 20s, I entered a speech contest in a organization. I was a member of a women's business and professional group. And I remember thinking, I've got this. I'm going to slam dunk it. And oh, was I mistaken. Then anyway, really worked on myself, worked on my skills, developed myself to do what I'm doing today. I think, Jessica, if people, they may not love it like you and I do, but I want to get them to the point where they're confident and comfortable sharing their message. You can't have a business and be the best kept secret in town. Nor can you lead a group of people if you're not necessarily an entrepreneur, but you're in business and industry and be silent at a meeting or struggle to connect and lead a meeting. People want to follow people that are confident and that they
Mhm.
perceive, know what they're doing. And the
Mhm.
way we get that message across is verbally. And of
I
course,
agree.
today, we're on camera most of the time.
Yeah.
Many people, not 100%, but a lot of folks are spending their days on camera.
Mhm.
And if they're shut off, you talked about speaking to an empty room. A friend of
Mm.
mine sells, she's a health insurance broker, and she said she had the oddest experience. First time meeting this group of people on a virtual platform, no one came on camera. She said, I didn't really know if I was talking to people or not. She said, it was the most bizarre experience of
Awful.
my life. Yeah. So if we're not willing to interact with each other on camera, oh, it's so sad. I mean, I know when you're in a big auditorium, you can kind of hide. You don't have to. But again, it's about making that connection with people. That's what we have to be able to do. And we are a tribal species. We
Mhm.
want to connect.
You made a couple of important comments that I want to touch on and just reiterate. So, confidence is key. I'm in a book club right now, a small, intimate, free a women's book club, and we go through books together once a week for an hour. And right now, we're working through Dean Gracioso's Millionaire Habits. And one of the key factors that keeps popping up through all the chapters of it as we've been going through it is the importance of confidence, and really being proud of the achievements and the skills and the human that we have chosen to be. And then the other thing is the whole concept of fear. I love to share this recently happened. My daughter, she's at a Montessori school and she does school plays, and she was the lead in Alice in Wonderland for their play like 2 years ago. And this year she went for play tryouts and they were having a musical. And it's one thing to go and act and read in front of the whole class with energy and, expression and all this, but to sing is something else, right? And so I kept reminding her that, it's okay to be afraid, but courage is doing things even when you have fear, and so the fear doesn't necessarily go away. There's many famous singers to this day and other public figures and comedians who will tell you that, they get afraid when they step out on that stage to this day. However, they've learned coping. This is all learnable skills. So if you work with Leslie, you can learn to overcome these things, to have courage despite the fear. And I will tell you that my daughter got a great part in the play, and she's even got a solo, one of the solo parts, and she's got some speaking parts and things. So, you just don't know what you can achieve until you try it. And as a 12-year-old entrepreneur, I sponsored her into a women's Zoom virtual networking thing, and she makes her own custom earrings and things. And so she spoke to the group. She had her speech prepared. We practiced it, and it was her first time ever, and she was afraid. And then she showed her little things, and she made some sales, and she's beginning to grow and develop her business. But it's exciting. So I just wanted to point on, the confidence you mentioned, and the concept of fear.
Well, I think that's super important that you encouraged her to do
Mhm.
that anyway, right? It's
Mhm.
about being uncomfortable, but stepping into that just
Mhm.
regardless. And the more times we'll do that, the more we'll build that confidence and silence that little inner critic, because it's going to
Mhm.
say, oh gosh, she's at it again. I guess we're going to be
Mhm.
safe. It's okay. Not a big deal. But the practice piece that you shared with your daughter, I think is the other key. All
Mhm.
too often, I see people just wing it. They don't prepare. They're just going to show up, and it doesn't really come off very well. But then you
Mhm.
mentioned those other personas, and I heard a story about Beyonce
Mhm.
that she is not necessarily, I don't know that she's terrified, but early in her career, she
Mhm.
adopted a persona that she calls Sasha Fierce. And Sasha comes out when she straps on her stilettos to walk
Mhm.
out on stage. So I think that having that adoption
Mhm.
persona can be a great resource, a great tool.
Absolutely. And I am a little bit similar. Actually, I didn't know that story about her, about Beyonce, but when I go speak in public myself, I have really outlandish, fun, sassy, crazy high heels that I wear. I have all kinds and all styles. And matter of fact, I'm still thinking about a pair I saw last Saturday that I should have bought because they were just so fun and flamboyant. But and I call them my confidence shoes, actually, because I get out there in those shoes and I feel like a bazillion dollars. And so, who cares what I'm saying? Have you seen my shoes? You know? So, I think humor too, being comfortable enough to, not make fun of yourself or talk down about yourself in public, but to be able to have fun with the audience and take your hair down. And, like I remember once I was on stage and the way they had the technology set up and the way they had the wires and things in my space where I had to walk and share on, on this giant screen. Um, was a little hazardous, and I'm in, killer high heels, so uh I made, I made a light joke of the people in the front row. Their job now was to catch me if the cords caught my heels, and of course everyone laughs with you. So, some of the things you're worried about as a speaker on stage, you can vocalize them and have some fun with them and really be vulnerable, and more intimate with your audience, because they just got a chuckle out of that. And if the cord caught me, I'd make a face and look at the front row and point at them, and they would laugh, and they'd even put their arms up like, okay, we're gonna catch you if you fall. So there was some interaction there, and I got them involved in my story, even though that was a little stressor for me. Like, I'm like, what the hell? How am I gonna navigate all these? What the heck? Sorry, LinkedIn. How am I gonna navigate all of these wires?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
a thing, and you just have to roll with the punches and make
Yes.
and have fun. Now, when someone says, you know what, this is it, this is what I need. Leslie and Jessica are talking my tune right now. I super need this guidance and support. What is their customer experience when they come to you? How are they working with you? What's your formats?
So the first thing we do is have a conversation to see if we're a right fit and to see what their goals are. And that doesn't matter if they're coming and working with me one-on-one or coming into a group program, which I'm going to be launching another group here in a few weeks. But
Yay.
helping people, I want to really understand what their goals are and what they want to accomplish in our time together, and
Mhm.
to really know that it's possible.
Mhm.
I've had, somebody came to me not too long ago and they said, well, I really want to do a TED Talk. Like, well,
Mhm.
I don't know that that's my area of expertise. I can help you
Mhm.
prepare, I can help you build a good presentation, but how to get on a TED stage, that's not something I even know about. I'd have to Google it, right? So that wouldn't be fair necessarily to
Mhm.
that person for me to take them on as a client.
Now I'll pause you and say, if you're watching and you really want to get on TikTok, I have a great contact. So direct message, reach out to my team. I will connect you with an amazing contact. He has been on, he's one of the top 3% of how many he's been on. And plus, there's another great book I'll refer you to. Is one is called Talk Like Ted.
Yes.
It's interesting when you were talking about practice. In that Talk Like Ted book, he gives a ridiculous amount of times he's worked with the guy who wrote this book, Talk Like Ted. I want to quote, and if I'm wrong, read it and send me a message and a direct message and tell me how wrong I am. But I'm pretty sure he's worked with some of the top as a coach. TED Talk in history. So, like, longest standing ovation, most views, like that kind of thing. And he writes this book, Talk Like Ted, but he also writes this other book. And you touched on this about storytelling and the importance of it and being able to speak your stories verbally and communicate them out to the world. He also writes another book that people don't often, I don't think hear about as often. It's called Storyteller Secrets.
Mm.
Now, if you read Storyteller Secrets, you also want to listen to and or read stories that stick, because the Storyteller Secrets is great for like the premise and a lot of data and information, but stories that stick really break down the different kinds of business stories a story you should be telling, and the structure and format of how to tell them. Like, it's brilliant. It's If you listen to the audio, the author reads it, and she's just a hoot and a tickle. I mean, you just enjoy. She, of course, weaves stories into her book about storytelling,
Yeah.
and it's just so much fun to listen to. So, yeah. And I was started to quote something that, you're supposed to correct me on when I get it wrong. It's in the talk like TED, I'm pretty sure he says that he was working with these individuals and they practice their talk like a ridiculous number of times. I think it's like 1,000 times or something before they go on the stage. I mean, it is practice and practice, inside and outside and upside down. So practice is the professionals, people who go and do these big important talks that could potentially lead to millions of views in your career, in your life. I mean, be prepared for thousands of practice times. And that just takes you to think about the Olympics, right? The people who are the best in their industry. I was listening to someone describe Michael Phelps' routine. He did like 50 hours a week of swimming, and then he had a weight routine and one of the strictest nutrition team. And the interesting thing about him too is he was actually they gave some of the parameters of his physique, where it was like ideally built for, like, his torso was longer, his feet were bigger, his hands were longer, his arms are longer, his hands were bigger than average. Like, he had some advantages, but even without the advantages, if you have passion and you have training and you have practice, man, you can hit the speaking Olympics too if you really wanted to, or at least do it so well people come up to you afterwards with a short little line of people standing behind waiting to talk to you to say you really impacted their world and they were moved by what you had to say. So I think that's definitely an important thing to think about too. So you have the group coaching and you have the individual. Let's go back to customer experience. So what kinds of things are they learning from you? Are they learning how to structure their talk? Are they learning just the mindset piece? Are they getting on gigs, or you're helping them get on stages? Like, what is the package of things that they can expect to receive as they work with you?
Yeah. So one of the things we identify is who their ideal client audience is.
Mm-hmm.
What's their message all about? What are they? Because I believe many people, especially coaches and consultants, have a story they want to share. They have been impacted by something and they want to share that message. So it's important that there's alignment with that, and then helping them. Where are those people? Where do they show up? Who should they be connecting with to get them in front of those audiences, whether it's in person or video? And it's probably a combination of both. And then we do always talk about the mindset piece. I begin every session with mindset, because I think that's very important. And again, taking that inner critic and changing it into an inner champion. And then we talk about what I call your signature story, and what developing that story so you can use it in any number of ways. It might be at a networking intro. When somebody says, "So what do you do? Tell me about you." You want to have a 30, 60-second compelling narrative. You want to have something that maybe you could take into a webinar if you wanted. So from 30 to 60, from 30 seconds to 60 minutes. And there's a lot in between, but we work on that story and getting comfortable telling it. So nuancing it a little bit, if you will. The one book that was impactful to me, we were listing those books, is the Story Theater Method, and the author's name is gone. He originally wrote it. The title he originally called it was "Never Be Boring Again," and it's been a great resource I've had on my bookshelf for probably 25 years. So anyway, the Story Theater Method, I think, is what he's calling it now. Really great resource for people.
That's lovely. Before we move on to your tip, is there anything about you personally or your business? I know we're going to talk about your book later, but is there anything else about you or your business that you want to share before we move on to your tip that you share with the audience today?
I mean, I welcome the opportunity to connect with people. If they think that I could be helpful, let's just have a conversation. But the other thing I would say, my tip, well, I have a lot of tips, but the one tip I always share with people is, as you're presenting, whether it's like we're seated, so we're presenting, if it's standing, keep both feet flat on the floor. And because you want to draw your energy up through I feel like through and out to the audience. And if I am standing on one foot, if I'm crossing my legs, if I'm hopping around, I don't know, Jessica, somebody years ago said, well, when you're on stage, you need to move. Yes. However, you want to move with purpose. And most of the time, we want to move just the upper half of our body. When we pace back and forth, it can appear nervous even if we're not. So move with purpose. Think about how you want to present. So if you're going to tell and make a point, and maybe you want to lower your voice and lean into your audience to make your point, or maybe you want to get big and broad. It depends on how you're telling the story and what it's all about. It's tone of voice, body image, body language, body movement. But most of the time, your feet are going to be flat on whatever surface is below you.
Or in my case, hiked up in stiletto heels, right?
Yes, exactly.
But I do a little bit of a dance in those, because if you stand too still in high heels too long, your feet will fall off. It's it's a proven fact.
Yeah. So you want to move, but move with purpose.
Yes.
Again, and think about the story, what you're sharing, how you want to make those movements. So that's one of the things that Doug Stevenson, I believe is his author, talks about in his story theater method, is how you want to position yourself on stage and move with purpose.
I love that. That's a great. Now we're going to make her give us another book later. Don't worry. She threw in some bonuses, but now that we've heard that amazing tip, we're going to go to the next part. And you've been watching, you see us, we're going to ask her about a cause that is close to our heart, because one of the things we started from show number 1 was, we wanted to take a moment and bring amazing humans to you who are doing cool things outside of the box, but they were also touching the community or the world in a bigger way. And what better way for us all to take a moment and step away from just, edifying Leslie or featuring myself. Let's move the spotlight to a cause and spread some awareness. If you can incorporate something kind in everything you do in your business, how much better would the world be if we all did this? So we're going to take our moment and talk about the cause that Leslie cares about. So go ahead, Leslie, and share with us.
The cause I care, well, there's many, but the one that I is near and dear to my heart is our local YWCA, the West Central Michigan YWCA, for a number of reasons. Typically because they help people, predominantly women, who are in abusive relationships. Now, women can be the perpetrator too, but most of the time it's a woman who's a victim. And when she has to flee with her children in the middle of the night, she has nothing. She's leaving literally with nothing to go to that shelter but the clothes on her back. So I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do this though, Jessica, because hotels are changing their policies. What used to be, or typically when you travel, those little shampoos and lotions and all that, I always collect them and then I take them. And we were traveling last weekend, and now they've got big items in the
dispensers.
So anyway, I just think that was my way of helping, in addition to some financial resources that I share with them on a regular basis. But they just do such good work.
Well, I hope that hearing about this cause has inspired you to see what's in your community, maybe like this, or helped inspire you to donate time, treasure, and talent to a cause you care about. Or maybe it just inspired you to do something nice and kind to someone for someone today. So, love taking that moment to share, and thank you for sharing with us such a great cause. Someone listening may not have known that it was available and may know someone in great need of it. So you know what to do. Hit that share button and put in the chat and in the comments, wherever you're seeing this, the causes that you care about, what's close to your heart. We'd love to spread some awareness about your cause too. If you're an industry expert, reach out to us. We'll put you on the show. All right. So a book that inspired your personal life or helped you grow your business. You had another one for us because we always talk about books. We are creating the ultimate book list for our listeners. And as we hit hopefully the end of this year and 1,000 industry experts, we're going to be releasing things like the book of tips and the book of causes and the ultimate book list from all of our amazing guests that we've had on over the years. So what's a book you have for us?
The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Very
It's just
fantastic.
a wealth of information. Great resource. Read it. I've read it several times and referred to it often.
Yeah, sometimes we know the things that we're supposed to do, but the reminder of the things that we should be doing and making sure that we're actually implementing them in our weekly and daily routines is super key to having that success. So just because we've read it before, I have several books that over the years I'll read, every new year, or I'll read twice a year, or I'll reference, once a quarter. There's been lots of books in my life that have made that impact, but just making sure you're actually taking action on what you're learning in these amazing books is also super key. Now, like many of our brilliant and beautiful guests, Leslie is also an author. So tell us about your book.
So it's the 21 Lessons for Mastering the Difficult Conversation, which people can find on Amazon. And it can be you could order print on demand for a soft cover, paperback, that's what I want, or Kindle, either way.
Very good. Very good. Now look in the article we've written and in the comments, as you come back to the show later. We're live at the moment, but later on in the comments and on my website and other places, you'll be able to find an article that goes with Leslie's interview here. And it will feature all the different ways to contact her and all her brilliant links for opportunities you have to work with her, to meet her, to get her book, and all of her amazing gifts for you that she has mentioned. So let's see. We talked about your book. We've talked about all the things. Well, that's it. So if you, again, I'm going to say it again. Are you an industry expert? I know you know someone who is. Do you help people with their personal life or can help them grow their business and really expand and reach their goals? Well, then you should be on our show. Reach out to us and our team, and we'll get you featured and lined up so that we can then share your message. Now, don't be greedy. It's just not nice. Make sure you share and tell others that are also industry experts and introduce us to them as well. So you could be their hero and ours, because they will be so happy you got them on a show, and we'll be so happy we got to feature another amazing guest. Now, before we say goodbye, as always, Leslie, I'm going to ask you to share one final piece of beautiful information or inspiration that we can leave the audience with.
Well, it comes to when we're on camera, smiling. Yeah. You said that as we got in, but I've seen so many people who have a countenance that it's kind of like, wow, they're a little off-putting. And I don't think they mean to be. They're just not cognizant. So anytime we can be in front of the camera or in front of the group, but especially on camera, if we can just smile a little bit, doesn't have to be a big toothy grin, but just increase those muscles there. Yeah. And you seem a little bit more relaxed and more approachable.
I tell you what, when I was in cheerleading competitions as a cheerleader when I was young, they would actually put Vaseline on our top front teeth, which forced us to smile because we didn't want to feel it. That's funny, the different tactics. Well, Leslie, it has just been lovely and beautiful to spend this time with you. I hope you've had as much fun on the show as we have had having you.
I've had a blast. Thank you so very much.
Well, as always, you know who I am. I have been your host, Jessica Koch. This has been our lovely guest, Leslie. And as always, I'm going to say to you and close the show the way I can't imagine ever changing it. I'm just going to remind you and ask you to consider to be kind to yourself and be kind to each other. Bye, everybody.